Hey everyone, this is Brett Favre, Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champion, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packers content. Go Packers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are live on YouTube, X, and Rumble here to talk some Packers, talk some free agency, as a couple more dominoes have fallen into place across the league. And I know the chat is already lit up. Appreciate y'all making us part of your Saturday evening festivities. If you would, hit that like button on the way in. Friday evening. I apologize. Well, we got a day ahead here, didn't we? Hopefully everybody had an awesome day, man. The weather's been great down here in Tennessee. It looks like it's been pretty nice across the rest of the country. So hopefully you guys are taking care out there. I know we got people already here in the chat. Bloody Swamp. I'm willing to take a 3-tech, Clayton, or corner or wide receiver, as long as they show production and not just a freak of nature. Amen to that, man. I would like to see us kind of go, I don't want to say in a different direction, but let's start pressing a little more into, the better football player as opposed to the better athlete. And I think most fans would agree with that. We've done that here recently with just taking these athletic freaks in the first round. I would be okay with kind of taking a step back and going with a player that maybe has a little bit better tape. Now, according to Goody and his staff, of course, they always say that they take the tape as the top priority. I've heard him say that numerous times. It's just the results seem like they don't line up, right? We looked at Lucas Van Ness there a couple years ago and said, yeah, athletic freak, he's a monster, right? What was the knock? Maybe he didn't have as much playing time or experience as some others, although just because he wasn't a starter didn't mean he didn't play a lot. But you've seen other players that had a lot better production in college, and that's really what it comes down to is you kind of got a production grade and you got an athletic score as well. And you guys know we like to use, obviously, RAS for that on this particular program. So appreciate you swinging through there, Swamp. Greg Rice, we have a timestamp now, very official. I'm not sure what that means, Greg. Maybe YouTube changed something up, but hey, if it looks better, that's great. Now, Aaron Timothy, if I'm saying that correctly. We know that's too old for this, obviously. Timestamp, is that like AFAM's tramp stamp of a clock? Could be. He also goes on to say, fans, we don't sign someone they've never heard of. It's, quote, fire Goody. Fans, when we sign someone they've never heard of, it's fire Goody. Amen to that. Isn't that funny how that works? I will say this. It feels like there's more Packer fans speaking up this offseason from a sense of like, hey, y'all need to chill. Like, to sit here and pretend like we understand, evaluating a player like, say, an Aaron Banks more than an NFL front office is just silly. I mean, hopefully you guys have caught on to like how I approach this whole thing. I've been watching football for a long time, and I've really been studying football. And there's a big difference between just watching football and studying it. I've only been studying the game of football since probably about 2010. So I've got about 15 years under my belt now, 14, I guess, roughly. And I'm telling you guys, I don't understand this much of what Goody and his staff understands when it comes to evaluating a football player. That's just kind of how I choose to look at it. And I know there's some fans that think they've got a better understanding. I don't know, man. I just I can't allow my ego to get to that level. I think it's absolutely wild that some think that for sure. I see everybody in here. Good to see Coach Lynn. Appreciate you, man, swinging through. Aaron Rodgers, our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, said, question, with Quay future unknown with the fifth-year option, at 23, can you see Goot drafting Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama? I got a weird feeling it could happen. With those type of questions, Aaron, I look at it like for a couple of different things. All right, what's the team need right now? What does the board look like? Does it look like he might be worthy of that 23rd pick? And also, is there precedent for Goody to take a linebacker in the first round? I think all three of those are yes. Now, does that mean they're going to take him if he's on the board at 23? Not necessarily. It just depends on what their board looks like. But when you look at our board, it does line up pretty perfectly. Matter of fact, we're already I had a screen ready to share. Let's just go to the draft board real quick. Let's just kind of hang out and talk a little draft for a second since we're flying solo. And shout out to Tim. Tim muscled through the morning show. You can obviously tell he felt really bad. He's battling an illness. Jacob's out with family tonight, and Emilio is somewhere out of the country, which don't be surprised if he never comes back. All right, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. So when you look at Jahad Campbell on our draft board, you can see him right here in the 23 spot now, or in the 22 spot. Notice it says 23. That's because we got a placeholder at the top. I've had so many people correct me and go, "No, he's actually here." There's a placeholder at the top, so he's actually 22, or any particular player that you see that number on the left. It's actually one player lower or higher on the board, I guess you could say. So Jahad Campbell coming in at the 22 spot on our board as it sits right now. And I'm trying to think what could change that. The only thing that can really change his ranking, his grade is not going to change unless Greg Cosell thinks very, very highly of him. If Greg Cosell comes out and I catch him on a podcast or on a film breakdown saying, "Hey, Jahad Campbell's the real deal, really like this guy," that type of thing, then he'll get another bonus. But right now his score or his grade on our board is a 25.3. Okay. And I say that he can't drop down any further unless someone leapfrogs him for this reason. We've got all the information in, guys. We get the 2023 PFF grade. We get the 24 PFF grade where he was 66, the 66 linebacker graded, right? The PFF big board at the end of the college football season had him in the 38 spot. Consensus big board had him at 32. Daniel Jeremiah, this is really exciting, has Jahad Campbell at 13. Guys, that's nothing to just roll your eyes about. Like, the fact that Daniel Jeremiah has him that high on his board says a lot. Now, Dane Brugler, another draft expert, right? He's got him in the 23 spot. Kyle Krabs had him at 40 in his initial list, so obviously that pulls him down on our board a little bit. And he scored a 9+ RAS, which Goody loves his athletic freaks, right? So that's going to put him in that 25.3 grade. So with all that being said, I could see it, Aaron. If we run it through those three filters, right? Is there precedent for Goody taking a linebacker? Yes. All right. Is there a need on the team for a linebacker? I say yes, because we don't know if Quay is going to be that linebacker alongside Edgerrin Cooper, right? We don't know if he's going to be that long term, and it depends on whether or not they can work out the contract and all those things. They've got one more spot, in my opinion, on their roster for a linebacker, right? We talked about, in my opinion, you need to carry at least 5. And I think we've got 4 on the roster right now, which we talked about earlier today. Now, Eric Wilson was that one. Like, if Eric Wilson returns to the Packers, you don't really have that spot unless you're going to carry 6. But Eric Wilson signed with the Vikings. He goes back to Minnesota now. So now you've got that extra slot open there. You're looking for a backer. And let's say Jahad Campbell is hands down the best player on Goody's board when we pick at 23, right? And he checks all the boxes, and Goody takes him. Now you back off on, look, let's don't overpay for Quay. Let's see what Jahad can do. It doesn't mean Jahad Campbell is going to be starting next to Edgerrin Cooper over Quay, but you get a look at him in camp, right? You get a look at him in the offseason. You get a look at him in camp. You get a look at him in preseason. And then, I don't know, 5-6 weeks into the season, if you look up and go, man, I think he's better than Quay as a rookie, then you do what you did with Edgerrin Cooper. You throw him in the lineup. Now you don't have to pay Quay. You got Jahad Campbell on a rookie contract for the next 4 years, alongside Edgerrin Cooper on a rookie contract for the next 3 years, alongside Tyron Hopper on a rookie contract for the next 3 years, alongside Isaiah McDuffie, who obviously just signed a little extension there as well. What do you get, like 2 years? I think he's under contract for us. So I think it makes a lot of sense, man. Now, in a perfect world, would I want that to happen? I actually wouldn't. I want him to take the best player available, but I have a hard time believing there's not going to be a 3-tech or an edge that we like a lot more, or even an offensive lineman. I still don't think we're done there, to be honest with you. I think that if the board falls just right, let me give you an example. Like, let's just work from 23 up here. We got Jahad Campbell in the 22 spot, I should say. All right. Let's say everybody above Jahad Campbell, right? Let's just walk it back and say that the 5 right above him on our board are available when we pick at 23. Will we take Malachi Starks over Jahad Campbell? Probably not. I feel good about the safety position. I really do. I don't think it's like a glaring need. And what I mean by that is, obviously, you've got Xavier McKinney under contract for the next 3 years, I believe. You've got Evan Williams on that awesome rookie contract. What was he, a 4th-round pick, if I remember correctly? He's got 3 more years left on his deal. You're kind of okay at safety. So I would prefer Jahad Campbell over Starks. Would you take Jahad Campbell over Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State? That's tough for me because obviously when you see these names in the green, that in my opinion are positions of tier 1 importance, meaning it's at the top of the list. The blue, which Jahad Campbell's in, are the tier 2 positions. So safety, post safety, which safeties need to be able to play both positions in the NFL today. That's why I list all the safeties in blue just to make us, okay, go check, see if he can play post. More times than not, you find out every safety in college, yeah, he's got over 100 snaps playing post safety. He can play post even though he played the majority in the box because you want those safeties to be very interchangeable when you're trying to sugar an offense, when you're playing D in the National Football League. So Josh Simmons being at offensive tackle is a tier 1 position in my opinion. So you would place more value on him than Jahad Campbell. Let's say they've got the same score. And when you look at the tiers and how our tiers are going to break down in increments of 5 points, Jahad Campbell is a 25.3, okay? And Josh Simmons is a 23.9. So Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State, would be 1 tier higher than Jahad Campbell. So with that being said, now you've got 2 check marks for Josh Simmons. This is if Goody's board lines up like ours, okay? Just assuming that. You would say Josh Simmons plays a more important position, and Josh Simmons has a better grade, right? And Josh Simmons is 1 tier higher. Not only does he have a better grade, but he's 1 tier higher. Now, the one thing you want to look at with Josh Simmons, notice the red box here in 2024. So he battled an injury in 2024. I'm not going to take the time to deep dive that injury right now. If you guys want to chat about it in the comments, say by all means have at it. But that's something that comes into play. If they look up and go, he might not be ready for camp, or this could be a lingering issue. We don't feel 100% that he's going to be fully recovered from it. And it might be something that lingers throughout his career, be a hip injury, a shoulder, whatever it might be, right? Then you may go, you know what? The grade is close enough. Let's get Jahad Campbell. Those are the things that come into factor. Let's go up one more player. Michael Williams or Michael Williams, however you say it, edge defender out of Georgia, right? Let's say he's on the board. Would you take him or Jahad Campbell? He's in the same boat as Josh Simmons at the tier 1 position on edge. He's also got a better score. He's also a tier higher. He does not show any health concerns in 2024. I could probably make a case for taking Michael Williams over Jahad Campbell. So that's how I kind of look at the board and how to differentiate between, kind of all right, is it worth taking this guy over that guy type of thing, right? The next one will be Mike Green. He's got a wrestling background. You see the emoji there, right? Obviously, he just was dominant with PFF grades. Jake Shavink sent me something on him. I haven't had a chance to watch yet. I watched it just in passing. I was busy doing something. I need to dive into that and see if there's anything extra there. I think it was kind of referring to the disciplinary problems that you may or may not have with Mike Green. When we looked into it, to me, it looked like everything checked out. There's nothing really there, but Goody could see it different for sure. So with Mike Green, you're talking about a 21.4 grade. So he's got a better grade than Michael Williams, Josh Simmons, and Jahad Campbell and Malachi Starks for that matter. So Mike Green, yeah, you would take him over Jahad Campbell. Right there, I feel a lot better about taking Mike Green over Jahad Campbell than I do Michael Williams over Jahad Campbell, if that makes sense. And then, of course, above him, you've got Jahdae Barron, a versatile corner out of Texas. The Packers met with him. That's what that cheese emoji means there. When you look at his score, he's got a 20.7. He's in the same tier as Malachi Starks, Josh Simmons, Michael Williams, Mike Green, and Jahdae Barron. They're all in the same tier, right? But we don't have corner listed as a tier 1 position. I don't even list it as tier 2. And I know many people disagree with me on that. That's just how I feel about it. But Jahdae Barron's score is so strong there, you could see kind of a need. If Jair returns to the Packers, and if by the draft we feel like, hey, this is the guy that by the time we get to the draft, if it's Jair's not going to be on the roster, right, and we've already moved on or we're going to move on, you may pull the trigger on somebody like Jahdae Barron. in that specific position over someone like Jahad Campbell and even a Mike Green. Now, when you look at it, you go Mike Green, edge defender, Michael Williams, edge defender, Josh Simmons, offensive tackle. Those are all top tier 1 positions. So you would think, okay, yeah, we would take them over Jahdae Barron because they're in the same cluster, right? This is what we call a cluster buster. These guys would look like a cluster on the board. Then you go maybe to need if they're in the same cluster. And you could see corner as a need if Jai's not on the roster. If Jair is on the roster and you just sign Nate Hobbs, you're probably going in a different direction than Jahdae Barron if you've got a cluster of players. Now, let's pretend Jahdae Barron is the only one in that top tier when you pick, and let's say Jahad Campbell ain't even there. He's hands down the best player on the board is Jahdae Barron. I could see you pulling the trigger there because in a couple of years, you're going to be looking for a corner, right? Keyshawn Nixon ain't going to play forever. And you may like Jahdae Barron over Keyshawn Nixon. And what we talked about, he signed a 3-year deal. 3-year deals are typically 2-year deals for the Packers, meaning they can move on next year, free up some cap, and just cut ties with Key. So that could come into play. Now, when you get into someone like Kenneth Grant, and this is why on most of my mock drafts, we take Kenneth Grant. This is what I mean by this. Kenneth Grant is a 19.7. So he is 2 tiers higher than Jahad Campbell. Let's say the best player available on our board, I don't think it's statistically possible, but let's just pretend here for a second, that Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman out of Michigan, and Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama, are the 2 best prospects on our board. Kenneth Grant's 2 tiers higher than him in a tier 1 position of importance. I'm running the card up there for Kenneth Grant. And that's why when we've done our mock drafts throughout this offseason, the majority of the time, that's what we've done is kind of went in that direction for that very reason. Now, I think it is interesting that you've got 4 players, James Pierce Jr., edge defender out of Tennessee. You got tight end Colston Loveland out of Michigan, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan, and Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. All of those guys have already met with the Packers. We haven't gotten any information on top 30 visits yet. I don't even know if they've taken place. We will have a separate marker for that. I think we're going to do the target symbol, like the dartboard looking target emoji. That way you know that was a Packers top 30 visit. Okay. This just simply means the Packers have met with them, whether it was the East-West Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, the Combine. They have been linked through our great source there in Easton Butler on X. If you guys aren't following him, Easton _ Butler is, he's got the second he gets information on those players meeting with the Packers, it's up, and he'll have the top 30 visits as well. He also put together a free Google document for all Packer fans to hop in there and look at as well. So, so the fact that those 4 players the Packers met with, it kind of, I don't think there's any smoke and mirrors there. I think it's like they really liked them. Now, when they met with them, maybe they came away going, nope, don't want it. Maybe that's how they felt about Pierce Jr. or Colston Loveland or a Kenneth Grant or somebody. I highly doubt it. But what it tells me is if one of those 4 players is on the board when you pick at 23, probably going to pull the trigger on them. If you're showing interest in them early, we'll see if they're one of the top 30 visits too. So hopefully that makes sense and that answers your question, Aaron. I know it's a long-winded answer, but I think it was a great question. It's a perfect opportunity to look up and say, okay, here's how the board works and here's how we make those decisions. So thank you for that, man. Greg Rice says round 3, number 85, Amari Rodgers, wide receiver out of Clemson. Round 4, number 142, a compensatory pick, Royce Newman, guard out of Ole Miss. Round 5, pick 173, TJ Slayton, Florida. Not sure what you were referring to there. He said a draft I'd like to forget. I got you. And then on the earlier message here, you said Green Bay Packers 2021 NFL draft picks. Round 1, number 29, Eric Stokes, cornerback, Georgia. Round 2, number 62, Josh Myers, center out of Ohio State. That's a rough draft, man. You're right. Round 5, Shamar Jean Charles. Round 6, you had Cole Van Lannon. Round 6, compensatory, Isaiah McDuffie, Boston College. McDuffie, you probably look at as a 6th-round pick and go, that was a good pick, right? We've got a lot of service out of him, and he's back on a second contract, albeit he didn't break the bank. And then, of course, round 7, Colin Hill, running back out of Mississippi State. I see what you're saying there, Greg. It's a rough draft class, man. There's no 2 ways about it. So, all right, let's move along to some news that broke right before we went live here this evening. As we've been talking a little bit about Cooper Kupp, he has made his decision And you guys know on the morning show, we talked about this, and I said, man, it just feels like the Packers aren't really in the hunt for Cooper Kupp. Unfortunately, it kind of proven to be right there. ESPN tweeted out, breaking, former Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp and the Seahawks reach an agreement on a 3-year, $45 million deal, sources tell Adam Schefter. Get breaking news alerts from Adam Schefter through the ESPN app. So obviously, Shefty broke this. The average is $15 million per. We'll see what the guarantees actually are. You know, that's probably the more important number for these contracts, the guarantees and practical guarantees. But Cooper Kupp lands there in Seattle for $15 million per on average. I've seen people saying that's too much. That's too much. I don't think that's too much. If you've seen enough to go, hey, look, we think he's healthy, we think he's going to be good to go, and you get a solid slot receiver out of that. Here's the thing too: they've already got JSN. But Cooper Kupp can move around. You know, when people talk about these slot receivers, they act like that's the only thing they can do. And in some cases, that's true. But most of the time, you know, you look at somebody like Cooper Kupp, he can run every damn route on the tree. And he may have lost a step with the injuries. But I'm telling you, man, those type of receivers, if they stay healthy, and it's a big if, I got you, you can manipulate the defense and you can get separation through route running. Now, looking at the analytics, it looks like his separation has tapered off the last few years. But who else do you have in Seattle? You know, you got JSN. You just traded DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett was cut and let go. You see what I'm saying? Like that, to me, I think this is a decent move for them. And again, it's probably going to be structured in a way that they can move on after 1 or 2 years. It's a 3-year deal, which means it's really a 2-year deal. And honestly, if there's even less guarantee than we think there might be, you could probably move on after 1 year and it not be a huge detriment to your ball club. So there you go. Cooper Kupp lands in Seattle. Let's go to the Patreon group. We had a couple questions, couple comments in here. Appreciate everybody who's joined the Patreon group. By the way, we're going to end the show tonight with a giveaway. Anybody who's a member of one of the 3 tiers in our Patreon group as of midnight last night. So don't go run and sign up thinking you're going to get into this giveaway. I don't want to mislead you guys, okay? But if you want to sign up and support the stream, it's just a way for us to give back to those who support us. So we will be giving away an autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey tonight. We'll spin the wheel here live on the air. Also, the YouTube members are a part of that as well. So, yeah, for everyone who's a member and I always highly recommend join the Patreon group over a YouTube membership because I feel like you get more out of the Patreon group. You get a cool little logo next to your name on YouTube and it says you're a member and all that. That's great. But with the Patreon group, you got access to our draft board. With the Patreon group, you got access to multiple chats. We're also going to be doing a mock draft contest and attach a giveaway to that. It's a lot of fun. It's just a better way to stay connected. You've also got a direct DM to me if you want to send us a message here and get something through to the show, whatever it may be. You can do that on there as well. And again, just go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Will get you to that link, or you can scan the QR code in the upper right. Let's get to the Patreon questions. We got Ron Samville says, Brian Baldinger, 49ers, big Aaron Banks is a huge part of this offensive success. Hard to find big, powerful trackers that can move like Aaron. Take that to the bank at Notre Dame football. So evidently that was a tweet last year that Baldy said about Aaron Banks, or one of the previous years, I would imagine. Is that what Goody sees as well as what Ron asked? Ron, I think that's exactly what he sees. The other thing that we tried to explain, sometimes when you see these signings happen that catch us off guard, they catch you off guard for a reason. We don't have access to Goody's draft board. And you're going, draft board, Clayton? He's been in the league for 3 years. I know he has, or 4 years, however long it's been. These GMs, when a player becomes available, the very first thing they do is pull the draft board, pull the draft information, the process. How did we feel about that prospect coming into the league? What did we think were his pros and cons, right? What does he do well? What does he do not so well? Okay, was he able to fix those things when he got to the National Football League? Now let's turn on the pro tape and literally have the scouting report from when he came out of college on the desk, watching the tape of what he's done in the NFL. The fact that Goody gave him that contract, and albeit it's only $27 million fully guaranteed, which tells me you got a little bit of cushion there. It's basically a 2-year deal is essentially what it is, and you can get out. I think they looked at the scouting report and seeing exactly what Baldy said here, like Ron had mentioned. Big physical dude. He moves well. Watching him on pin and pull plays is phenomenal. Him being able to get lateral, right, and not pancake a guy, but allow them to do a pin and pull or just even a deep toss play, and him be able to shuffle over horizontally and be able to block a nose tackle to allow that run to kick outside. He's got all the athleticism you need in a player. He's got the size, he's got the quickness, all those things. You look at his 40-yard dash, you think he ain't that quick. You turn on the tape in the NFL and you go, man, this guy can really get to the next level. Now, they said the same thing about Josh Myers, but the difference, in my opinion, between Banks and Myers is Banks arrives at confrontation a little more under control than Myers does. Myers got out there and was just kind of like, okay, what do I do now? To me, Banks looks like he understands how to block on the go better than Myers. And I know there's some folks going, well, Clayton, he didn't replace Myers. Really, he did. Kicking Elton over to center, obviously he takes over Myers' spot, but you're replacing, of those 5 that you had last year starting on the offensive line, you're replacing Myers with Banks is what you're doing. So I think it is an upgrade after watching the tape. And I think that's probably what Goody did, was he pulled the scouting report, looked at the NFL tape and said, let's go give this dude a little bit of a bag and get him in here. We need to shore up that offensive line. We feel vindicated here. And I say we, me, Tim, Emilio, Jacob. When that Philly game wrapped up and you wait, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road, and there's people going, we need a number 1 wide receiver. We needed this. We needed that. Why did we get our ass kicked by the Eagles? It's real simple. It was in the trenches. All it took was one injury and the thing fell apart on the offensive line. So we were one of the few people going, man, you better shore up that offensive line. Man, we better not take an offensive line in the first round, or we better not spend a bunch of money on an offensive line. We got other needs. Telling you, 3-tech and interior offensive line was the big glaring things that popped out to me in that Philly game. And that's who you're chasing right now. Let's be honest. That's who you're chasing in the NFC. That's who you're chasing across the entire league. Those are the champs. So I like the signing, and I'm glad you brought that up, Ron. That's awesome that's what Baldy said about him for sure. And again, that was back in January of 2024, it looked like. Josh Martin, what do you think about signing Nick Chubb for 1 year, $3 million, prove it type of deal? I pulled his PFF grades, and I'm not going to put them on the screen here, Josh. I think it's a fascinating idea, dude. His PFF grades starting in 2018. Listen close to these guys. 86.4, 88.7, 87.9, 81.7, 90.3, 81.6, and then last year he dropped off to a 57.5. Now, here's the deal. Coming back from that nasty, nasty injury in 2023. 2023, he only played 54 snaps, got hurt, and then, of course, in 2024, he came back. If I remember correctly, that's how that happened. He came back in week 7 last year and stayed healthy through week 15, but coming fresh off that injury, performed really bad at a 57.5. You also got to take into consideration the Cleveland Browns passing game was garbage, if I remember correctly, too. They had a decent defense, and the focus was just stop the run, and we can beat the Browns. That's really what that came down to. The chances of him returning to that 2023 and 2022 form, with him at 29 years old and coming off that major injury, it might be somewhat slim. But like what Josh Martin's saying here, if you give him a 1 year, $3 million deal and, hey, prove it, what do you got to lose? You may get him into camp, and then by week 2 of the preseason go, boys, he's done. He's out. The tank is empty. The injury was too bad. You just cut ties and move on. I think it's a hell of an idea, Josh. The reality is he's going to be battling Chris Brooks for the number 4 back, right? That's what he's going to be battling for. If he comes out and he's just flat as a hammer, all right, you cut bait and you move on. You keep Chris Brooks, you're good to go. And you rotate Chris Brooks on and off the practice squad as you see fit. But if he looks like, damn, he's still got some gas in the tank, the fact that you would have Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, and now Nick Chubb, one of the former, some would say he was the best running back in the league during his prime, right? And Marshawn Lloyd, if he's healthy, that's an interesting backfield right there. And the way that we ran duo and we changed up our run scheme from the wide zone to more of a duo and an inside look and some counter and pin and pull and things like that, that kind of fits what Chubb does, in my opinion. So I think it's a good idea, Josh. I hadn't really thought about it much when I pulled the PFF grades reading your question in the pre-show. Makes a lot of sense, man. I'd be totally on board with that. Again, for the right price, right? What do you got to lose? Why not? Just it's kind of like what they did with A.J. Dillon in Philly, right? There's a decent chance he gets cut before camp even ends. And if that happens, what was hurt? You notice they didn't mention the contract details. To the best of my knowledge, I still haven't seen them. What was that contract truly look like with A.J. Dillon? If he got more than his market value or he got more than he got with his last deal, I guarantee you the agency would have pumped those numbers out. It's probably much like what Josh Martin's saying here, a one-year prove-it deal. The other question, though, Josh, is would Nick Chubb accept that contract? Probably not. If I was coming back from all that nasty rehab and everything, I would honestly look up and go, you know what? I've made pretty good money while I was in the league. I want to be able to enjoy the rest of my life. It's going to have to be a pretty sweet deal for me to come back. And a pretty sweet deal might be a team offering him $6 million per, $7 million per. He may have a $5 million cutoff and go anything less than $5 million, I'm not going to risk it. That could be the case too. So just keep that in mind there as well. But yeah, I think that's a good question, man. Very, very interesting question for sure. All right, Nebraska Rev. Heard your conversation on Friday about linebacker. Do you think that they may view Wilson as too much of a progress stopper for Hopper and potentially a new draft pick this year? In my opinion, if you are playing the best man, Wilson would start ahead of Hopper until Hopper gets more reps. I think you hit the nail on the head, Rev. What happened today, right? You had Eric Wilson sign with the Vikings, and that's probably how Goody looked at that. And Tyron Hopper, guys, he was a third-round pick. He fit everything for the Packers. Again, on our draft board from last year, I've talked about this numerous times. We had 6 players that we lit up in purple, and we're going to do the same thing this year. If I remember correctly, what that meant was that player met all the physical thresholds that the Packers like based off of past experience, again, precedent, at that specific position. They also were a top 30 visit as well. And I want to say it was something we tried to attach some kind of scheme aspect to it as well. Those players were Ray Davis, running back out of Kentucky, Michael Hall Jr., defensive lineman out of Ohio State, Marshawn Nealon, edge rusher out of Western Michigan, Austin Booker, edge rusher out of Kansas, Katan Oladapo, safety out of, Oregon State, I believe it was, yeah. And then, of course, Tyron Hopper out of Missouri. So 2 of the 6 players that we highlighted as these are the guys that are perfect fits for the Green Bay Packers. I mean, perfect. Everything the stars line up. We hit on 2 out of 6. Pretty darn good, right? We talked about maybe setting up a group wager this year, that when we come up with the 5, 6, 7, however many players there might be that meets that perfect criteria, if it's a plus 10,000, you can find those odds at some kind of junky gambling site, maybe hop on there and put a little money. If it's plus 5,000 and you put a little bit on all 6, you're going to come out making decent money there. So we do not give gambling advice on here, but we will tell you when we'll place a bet and go, hey, I'm ready to lose my money here. So obviously gamble responsibly and never gamble a dime that you can't afford to lose. But yeah, I think you're onto something there, Rev. I really do, man. They probably looked at Wilson like a progress stopper. It kind of what it came down to is what we talked about at the end of the season too. Is you'd like to keep. I wanted to keep Wilson and let McDuffie walk. Right, McDuffie was a better run defender. Wilson was a little bit better pass defender. I liked Wilson better on special teams. Let McDuffie walk and keep Wilson. It's obvious the Packers seen it the opposite, right? And I'll tell you why I think they did. 2 reasons. Goody drafted McDuffie, so he wants him to work. He wants him on the roster, right? He believes in him. And Jeff Hafley coached McDuffie at Boston College, if I remember correctly. So you had 2 different reasons, right, to bring him in. I don't think McDuffie's a bad football player, and I like the fact that they kept one of the 2. I was hoping it'd be on a minimum where if the board fell just right and you drafted 2 backers, you could just cut ties with them. You don't really want to do that with McDuffie and that contract and a little bit of guaranteed money attached now. But you definitely left space for 1. So I think you're spot on there, Rev. And thanks to everybody for the Patreon questions and comments there. You guys are awesome. So let's move it along. I apologize if I'm neglecting the chat tonight, guys. You know how hard it is to cut a podcast. And obviously I don't want to take the time to read the chat. Okay, let's hit on this. And there'd be dead air on the podcast. Hopefully you guys can understand it. I apologize. Diana Rossini put this tweet out, and we're just going to continue to give you an update until he signs somewhere, because obviously this does impact the Packers if he signs with the Vikings. Diana Rossini said, here's what you need to know. The Vikings are having discussions about what they want to do at quarterback and if they want Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has given them time and waiting to hear from Minnesota. The Vikings have yet to make a decision. We all wait. So if this is true, I think I'm one of the few Packer fans that believe Diana Rossini does actually have sources. Many people rake her over the coals. I think she's a decent, a decent reporter in the sense that I think she's reporting what she's hearing, whether it's smoke and mirrors and somebody's lying or what have you. I think she is hearing this from someone in each camp. And what it sounds like is she's getting this stuff from both camps. It sounds like the Vikings are seriously thinking about it, and it sounds like Aaron's camp, the word they put out there was, hey, we're trying to make a decision, or we're waiting on them to make a decision so we can really weigh out what are our actual options here. So I still think it's more likely he signs with Pittsburgh or the Giants. That could have already happened too. Who knows? I don't think it has. But it looks like here, like too old for this. Rodgers will be a Viking. I kind of feel like the same thing there, man. Like I think it's unlikely he plays for the Vikings. But the longer this drags out, remove the logos and remove the player name. Put yourself in the player's shoes, right? And you never played for the Packers. It's just strictly what's the best situation. Would you rather go to the Giants and play for that dumpster fire? Would you rather go to Pittsburgh and play there knowing the personalities are DK Metcalf and George Pickens? Or would you rather go to the Vikings, play in a dome? That's the other thing. Pittsburgh, cold weather, right? Would you rather play in a dome and have arguably the best receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson as your wide receiver, along with a young Jordan Addison who's ascending? He was top receiver on my board the year he came out. I got scolded for that one many times. That's the reason I remember that one like it was yesterday. And also Kevin O'Connell, who's one of the great young up-and-coming coaches. That's a system similar. Like he came from McVay's system, not necessarily Shanahan's, but more McVay's, right? Which that's where LaFleur came from. So Rodgers has already operated within one of those offenses for several years and won MVPs in it. You also got Hawkinson at tight end. I'm just saying, if I had to choose between the three, I'm probably taking the Vikings, as bad as I hate to say that. Now, as a Packer fan, I want to say this. If Rodgers ends up signing with the Vikings, I hope we kick their ass. I hope we boat race them. There will be none of this. Well, I see, some fans, well, I'd be okay if they split, What are you talking about? Now, on the flip side, I do think it's absolutely hilarious that some of the people who cover the Packers, who will remain nameless, talked about how bad Aaron Rodgers was and how he's washed up. 2 years ago, he's washed up. It's time to move on, blah, 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 blah. And now they're literally tweeting out and saying things like, yeah, it worries me he might sign with the Vikings. I thought he sucked. What happened to that energy? Like, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's not the Aaron Rodgers of old, but put him in an offense with weapons around him and just let him kind of pick and choose. I could see that being a possibility. So hopefully he does not go, right? Hopefully he does not go to the Vikings, because what I would rather see him do is either play in Pittsburgh and see if he can make a run at a Super Bowl. And, hey, let's meet him in the Super Bowl, a little Super Bowl rematch, right? Steelers-Packers, and then let's just boat race him there, and it'd be fun to watch Aaron play another year. But the second thing that I would like to see him do, I wouldn't like to see him go to the Giants because I think they're going to get their butts kicked the entire time. I'd like to see him retire and come on back to Green Bay, and let's hang the 12 and get him in the Packer Hall of Fame and have a big celebration. Welcome home, Aaron. Welcome home, Aaron. That's what I'd like to see happen. So, but it does kind of feel like there's some steam picking up here with Rodgers going to the Vikings. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? Just a yes or no here. Do you think Aaron will play for the Vikings? Yes or no? I want to see how many yeses and nos come in. You don't have to put an explanation or anything. Yes or no, will Aaron play for the Minnesota Vikings? That'll be an easy one for me to rattle through the comments here real quick and get everybody's take. It might actually be a good poll question. I just don't have time to set it up. Ben Holden says no. H.E. Solder says yes. He's got some of that PTSD from the Favre days, right? Chuck Jagger says no. United Bates, no. Paul Smith, no. Y'all making me feel good now, making me feel like it might not happen. Coach Lynn, yes, unfortunately, with the sad emoji. Clint says no. Jeffrey says no. 2-0 for this says, if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Vikings, I'll buy a Jordan Love Jets jersey. You know what's happening on down the road, right? It's coming like a freight train. Prince says no. Mr. Larry says no. Greg Rice says yes for his transition to the dark side to be complete. Joseph says yes. Chris says hell yeah. Man, sorry, Chris. That's too emphatic there, buddy. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So, all right. It looks like am I wrong, guys? It looks like it's kind of split, right? I don't want to take the time to count them off and put boring content out here, but I don't know. It looks like no one. No one, but there were several yeses for sure. So Clint said he's going back on Jeopardy. There you go, man. All right, got it. All right, so there's the latest on Aaron Rodgers. There's a couple other things I wanted to hit on real quick. I don't think we're going to have time because we're at the 40 mark. Yeah, we better go ahead and get ready to wrap up. I've got several things I've got in my notes here that we'll cover tomorrow. Just some stuff that I wanted to hit on. A little more Nate Hobbs. Him meeting with some of the media members was absolutely awesome. We'll hit on that. We got some contract talk we want to hit on. We got a couple mock drafts. Jacob Westendorf did the most recent mock draft on the NFL mock draft database. He did a complete mock draft for the Packers. That was an interesting one. We got several things. We can do the consensus mock draft as well, and kind of show who do they have going to the Packers there. And I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised with the results for that. So we'll hit on that tomorrow. But right now, let's do the giveaway. Let's give away an autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey. And just so everybody knows, the way I do the giveaways, it usually takes, I'll do 2 giveaways a month minimum, and sometimes we'll surprise you with 3 or maybe even 4. So what I do is I send this stuff out once a month. So like our last winner, I'm trying to think of who it was, Jordan, I believe it was maybe. I don't want to misspeak here. I want to give a shout out to him and let him know, hey, we ain't forgot about you. This is just how we have to do it to make it make sense for all the shipping, because I got to pay shipping on this stuff, and it does get pricey, and I try to do it in an orderly fashion. But yeah, it was Jordan Taylor. So what will happen is we get the winner here. We'll get everything together, and then probably in the next week or 2, we'll have both of those shipped out to the winners. So again, this is for the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey, and we'll try to keep the ads at a minimum here. And we got everybody's name on here. If you're a member of the Patreon group, if you're a member on YouTube, that's how you get yourself entered in these drawings, as well as the questions that we just covered as well. So what we're going to do, somebody in the chat as quick as possible. Get ready. You ready? Actually, Aaron already said it. But see, Aaron, they'll say that I told you that. 2-0 for this. They'll say Clayton told him to shuffle it 4 times, and it'll be rigged again. Someone right now who's hearing my voice, throw a number up. Throw a number up. United Bates says 6. All right, 6. You know what? Do one more. Somebody else put a number just so they know that there's no way. All right. We can't do it 65 times, Greg Rice, Jeez, Pete. But I will, since you asked for it, we will go ahead and hit you with one of those.
65%.
65%. That's what there you go. All right. So let's see what the next number is. Aaron said twice. That's not enough. Come on, guys. Give me one more number here. One more number. Duval. All right. While we're waiting on that last number, let's hit you with a little bit of the
Duval.
Go, Paul Smith. That'll work. He says 7. 7 sounds like a good number. Mountain Man Pack said, what's wrong with 5? We're going with 7. All right. That's what we're doing. So let's shuffle it 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's spin this sucker. What we're going to do, guys, we're going to pick 3 names. The first one it lands on wins the jersey, wins the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey. The second one will be the backup if that person has fell off the face of the earth and we can't find him. And then if that person fell off the face of the earth, we'll also have a third. All right, here we go. Let's spin it. The winner of the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey from our Patreon group and our YouTube members list is Hardy the Prophet. Hardy the Prophet. All right, let's write it down here. Hardy the Prophet, you are the winner of. It's funny too. Hardy's always in here donating and everything, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Hardy the Prophet is the winner of the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey. All right, now let's spin it 2 more times in case he's left the country or he's down there hiding out with Emilio. All right. So the second place winner, if we don't hear from Hardy the Prophet, will be Chris G. Chris G is the second place winner. And then, of course, the third place winner, in case we don't hear from either of those guys, is going to be in this. Larry McCarron's pinky is just absolutely awesome, is it not? You know how many games that pinky helped the Packers win right there? Jabin Tebow is the third place winner. So there you go. Again, Hardy the Prophet, you won the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey. Do me a favor, man. If you're in the Patreon group, send me a DM as soon as possible. If you're not in the Patreon group and you're on YouTube, shoot me a text. 865-658-5824 will be the easiest way to get a hold of me that way. And I got to get caught up on the text too. I apologize, guys. It's been hectic getting back and forth to the hospital. I'm trying to key in on the Patreon and make sure that those guys and gals that are supporting the show, that we're, holding up our end of the bargain there. So too old for this says congrats to the rigged winners. There you go. Right. He won, Greg Rice, that's what he won. He won an autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey, just like this one right back here behind me. That's the second one we gave away this month, actually. So we got some other stuff. So we got a Robert Brooks jersey in the mix. That's going to be one of the giveaways coming up. We've also got a really cool Catano Ladapo autograph rookie card. We've got an autographed Javon Bullard rookie card, an autographed Bo Melton rookie card, an autographed Sean Ryan rookie card. And we've also got, I hate to give this one away, but I'm going to honor it because Jazambi was so kind to donate this to the show. We got a jersey, I think what they call a jersey swatch is what it is, swatch, whatever. It's like a little piece of the jersey, and underneath it is an autograph from Mason Crosby. So I think it's a game worn, if I remember correctly. Typically, those are game worn jerseys, but got some really cool autograph cards we're going to be giving away as well. So Aaron says he wants a Bostic jersey, but you should be able to find those on eBay really easy. You go to eBay right now, somebody might pay you to take them off your hands. Now, listen, no Bostic hate here. I like Bostic. He's a fun follow on Twitter. He still supports the Packers, so we support him. Yeah, I'm with you. Coach Lynn says Oladapo's a stud. Wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a nice card moving forward. The Javon Bullard one too seems kind of interesting, right? You never know. He might really. I hope he just comes out like gangbusters this year, man. I really do, because he's caught a lot of hate from the fan base, portion of the fan base. And I thought Bullard did everything he could last year as a rookie, playing two different positions and filling in when injuries happen and this and that. I like him in the slot way better than the safety. So, yeah, that's so wrong, dude. I ain't even going to read that. Too old for this. Don't be a jerk. All right, we're out, guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Probably won't be a morning show. We're going to do an evening show tomorrow night. We'll bring you all the latest news and everything. Like I said, we had several topics to hit, but the voice is going to start going when you're talking by yourself for 45 minutes. And I'm sure some of the guys may be back tomorrow. So, yeah, Greg, we can't do it, man. We can't do it. He said, mock. We can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about it. But, all right, we're out, guys. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you tomorrow. If you would hit that like button on the way out. Everybody have a wonderful evening. As always, let's go out and make a little difference in this world, all right? Let's be the change we want to see in this crazy ball of mud spinning through space, allegedly. Those of you flat earthers out there, like Jacob. I just made it up. Jacob probably ain't a flat earther. I don't know. He kind of looks like one. We'll talk to y'all soon.
And we go. We out.
We're out. Bye, guys.